On a crisp, serene morning, Lars embarked on what he thought would be an ordinary hike through the forest. Armed with his backpack and a sense of tranquility, he parked his car at the edge of the woods and stepped onto the trail. The air was fresh, the sunlight dappled through the canopy, and the forest seemed to hum with life. But beneath its tranquil surface lay an extraordinary secret waiting to be unearthed. As Lars navigated the winding trails, he crossed a small stream and noticed something peculiar in the distance. At first glance, he assumed it was a natural formation, perhaps an oddly shaped rock or the remnants of an old shelter. Yet, as he ventured closer, it became clear that this was something entirely unnatural. The object gleamed faintly in the sunlight, its metallic surface reflecting beams that seemed almost too bright for the forest. "What is that?" Lars muttered, squinting against the light. He pushed aside some low-hanging branches and stepped cautiously toward the object. As the distance closed, the full shape came into view, a sleek, cylindrical form partially embedded in the forest floor. Leaves and mud clung to its sides, but the unmistakable sheen of metal hinted at something far more advanced than mere debris. It was a rocket, an actual rocket, lying incongruously among the trees. Lars froze, his mind racing. Rockets belonged on launch pads, not in forests. How could something so sophisticated end up here? He stepped closer, his heart pounding. The rocket's exterior bore no markings or logos, no numbers to identify its origin. It looked battered, with deep scratches along its surface, as if it had crash-landed from the heavens above. His curiosity overwhelming any sense of caution, Lars began to circle the object. He noted the massive engines at its base, their nozzles blackened with residue. Despite its damage, the rocket retained an eerie sense of purpose, as though it were guarding some unknown secret. On one side, Lars spotted a loose piece of metal, a flap that appeared to conceal a hollow space beneath. Compelled by an irresistible urge to explore, Lars crouched and tugged gently at the flap. The metal felt unnaturally cold under his fingers, but it gave way easily, revealing a dark void within. He hesitated, glancing around the forest to ensure he was still alone. Then, steeling himself, he ducked his head and crawled inside. The rocket's interior was unlike anything Lars had imagined. The air was thick and carried a faint, acrid smell, a mixture of burnt fuel and something metallic. The walls were smooth, reflecting the dim light that trickled in from the flap. As Lars moved deeper, his phone's flashlight revealed strange controls, charts and buttons. The design was advanced but cryptic, as if the rocket's creators had knowledge beyond current human capabilities. Lars's exploration was interrupted by a sudden jolt. The entire rocket shifted violently, throwing him to the floor. His heart raced as he realized the rocket was moving. Crawling back to the flap, he peeked outside and was stunned to see the forest racing past. The rocket was now secured on a flatbed truck, speeding down a highway. Escape was impossible. Lars had no choice but to wait and see where the journey would lead. The truck eventually stopped at a secured facility surrounded by high fences and guarded gates. Lars could hear voices outside, but he remained hidden, his breath shallow as he tried to process his predicament. After what felt like an eternity, the rocket was unloaded into a massive warehouse. When the area grew quieter, Lars cautiously opened the flap and climbed out, his curiosity once again overriding his fear. The warehouse was enormous, its vast space filled with rows of machinery, vehicles, and equipment. Bright fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows across the floor. Lars moved stealthily, sticking to the shadows as he tried to piece together where he was. He spotted workers in uniforms inspecting other objects but managed to avoid their notice. His goal was clear: find a way out. Lars's luck ran out when he stumbled upon two scientists in a side room. They froze, their conversation halting as they spotted him. One of them shouted for security, and within moments, Lars was surrounded by guards and escorted to a small interrogation room. There, a man in a calm yet authoritative demeanor questioned him about how he had found the rocket. Lars explained everything: the forest, his discovery, and how he had unknowingly been transported to the facility. The man listened intently before revealing the truth. The rocket was a detached part of a top-secret, government-funded space program. Normally, such parts burn up upon re-entry, but this one had survived intact and crash-landed in the forest. Its recovery was critical to maintaining the secrecy of the program. "We're not doing anything shady," the man assured Lars, his tone measured. "But this facility must remain confidential. What you stumbled upon is a rare anomaly, and we need to ensure it doesn't become a public spectacle." After confirming that Lars had no malicious intent, the man offered him a deal. He would be escorted back to his car, but he would need to be blindfolded to protect the facility's location. Relieved but still reeling from the day's events, Lars agreed. The journey back was quiet, giving Lars time to reflect. When the blindfold was finally removed, he found himself back at the edge of the forest, his car waiting exactly where he had left it. As he climbed in, the enormity of what he had experienced began to sink in. This was no ordinary day, it was an encounter with something extraordinary, a glimpse into a world few knew existed. That evening, Lars sat by his window, staring at the stars. His mind buzzed with unanswered questions about the rocket, the facility, and the people who worked tirelessly to protect their secrets. Though life returned to normal in the following days, Lars carried the memory of that strange, fascinating adventure with him, knowing it was a story he could never share but one he would never forget.